Hello everybody, this is Graeme Anderson, and today I'm going to be looking at Bonfire. Now, I'm going to tell you right up front that I really enjoy many of Stefan Feld's games. My favorite of his is probably Trajan. And the games he released around the same time are really some of my favorite from him. And although my enjoyment of his more recent titles hasn't matched my previous enjoyment, I still purchased each and every one knowing that I'm probably going to enjoy it at some level. So I'm coming into this one figuring I'm probably going to enjoy it, but maybe not to the level of the mid-2010s. Now, the theme of this game is something about guardians leaving the cities and bonfires going out, and it's up to the gnomes of this world to convince the guardians to come back by completing tasks so they can relight the... you know what, it doesn't make a lot of sense to me, but I'm usually not going into a Feld game looking for really a depth of theme. Now, the main mechanism of this game is the collection and spending of action tiles. And you'll be using those actions to perform things to like collecting resources or getting and fulfill tasks, building paths, portals, move guardians, recruit other gnomes, and more. And like many of Feld's games, you need to be doing a lot of things and have an overall strategy, but also have to be watching what the other players are doing to be able to modify your strategy on the fly. Now, this all sounds like it's going to be right up my alley, but will this game be a bright flame or one that's quietly extinguished? Let's get at the table, see what's played, and I'll come back for my final thoughts on Bonfire. This is Bonfire set up for 2 players. I'm not going to go into too much detail, but want to give you an overview of how the game works. The board is set up based on the number of players. Place tasks randomly on each island and a guardian per player on each corner island. The Elder cards are placed face up and the Specialist cards are shuffled and 6 are turned face up. The portal tiles are distributed evenly but randomly to the 7 spaces around the Great Bonfire, while the Great Bonfire is placed in the middle. 5 neutral novices are placed on the 5 common tasks. A boat for each player is placed in the harbor, and a scoring pawn is placed on the scoring track. Finally, the countdown tiles numbered 5 to 1 are placed off to the side of the board, and all action tiles and resources are placed off to one side. Each player board is set up so you have a starting tile with your guardian on it, the 7 novices go into their spaces, and each player will take 1 random extension, with the player who takes the overbuilding is the start player. Randomly place your 7 fate tiles in your personal supply, and place the last one in your fate area on your main board. Shuffle your 10 offering tiles and place them into 2 stacks, and turn the top one over on each stack. Take 1 of each resource, 2 wild tokens, and the 3 tokens from your fate tile you placed in your fate area. The gold resource is a wild resource, and the yellow tiles are wild tiles. Before we get into the actions, let's talk about how you score points. During the game, you'll score very few points, except for recruiting elders. Most of your points will come at the end of the game. You'll score points at the end of the game for each task you've completed and turned into bonfires, and the completed common tasks. You'll also score points if you can move your guardian onto the bonfires, for portals next to bonfires, and for paths that match the bonfire color next to it. On your turn, you'll perform one of 3 main actions. Place a fate tile, perform an action using one type of action tile, or ignite a bonfire and send a novice to the High Council. The first option is to place a fate tile. You can only do this action if you have 0 or 1 tiles left. You take either the top or bottom fate tile and place it so it is orthogonally adjacent to at least one other tile that is already being placed. You then gain the 3 action tiles from the place tile, and you get additional tiles if the fate tile you just placed matches any previous tile. The main action you're going to do on your turn is performing one action using one type of action tile. So let's quickly go through the actions. The green action is to build a path action. You discard 1 green action tile to take one of the top paths, and it must be placed in your first open spot on the left. Once you're past halfway though, it's going to cost you 2 green action tiles to do this action. The blue action is to move your ship. The first movement will be to any island, but after that you pay 1 blue action to move to the next island, 2 blue tiles to move to 2 islands, and 3 blue tiles to move anywhere on the board. For this action only, when you are done, you can perform either the red, receive a task action, or the white, retrieve a guardian action as a bonus action. So, the red receive a task action will allow you to take one of the tasks from where your ship is docked. If this is the first task you take from the island, it will cost you 1 red action tile. The second task will cost you 2, and the third will cost you 3. You then have to pay resources to take the tile. You'll always pay 2 resources, and the resource types that you can pay are a combination of the island resource and one of the 2 face-up offering tiles. Take the task, pay the resources, and place it on any open task space on your board, and then place the offering tile on the island in its place face down. The white retrieve a guardian action has 2 options. If your boat is docked on a guardian island, you can pay 1 white action tile to take a guardian as long as you don't already have that color, and place it on your starting tile. Now instead of taking a guardian, you can move your guardians. For each white tile you discard, you can move all your guardians that many spaces. But after the movement, no two guardians can be on the same space except for the starting tile. And if they end their movement on a path tile, you'll retrieve the resource from that path tile. And for one movement point, you can also move a guardian onto a completed task or a bonfire, if there is a portal between the path and the bonfire to score points at the end of the game. The purple action tile is to rotate the Great Bonfire. The first turn of the game can point to any position, but after that, one purple tile will turn in one spot, 2 tiles for 2 spots, or 3 tiles to point it anywhere on the board. Wherever the portal ends up, you can take 2 different tiles, a portal, a resource, or an action tile. If you take a portal, it must be placed in the first open space on the right side of the board and must match the shape of that next portal space. The path tiles and portal tiles are being placed in opposite directions. The last action is the yellow recruit a gnome action. Then there are 2 types of gnomes. The elders are the same in every game, and as soon as you recruit them, you're going to score for that elder. If you recruit a specialist, they will give you an ongoing special ability, and it will be replaced after you've recruited them. Recruiting either is the same process. If you spend 1 yellow tile, it's cost you 2 resources of whatever resource is on the gnome, or if you spend 2 yellow tiles, it will only cost you 1 resource of the gnome. And you recruit a maximum of 6 gnomes throughout the entire game. Now, if you're not going to place a fate tile, nor do an action with an action tile, the third option you have on your turn is to complete a task and turn it into a bonfire to score points at the end of the game. Flip the task you've completed over and move your novice from the bonfire spot to a high council space on the board. Now, each high council space can only have 1 of each color novice, and when you place your novice there, perform the action of that space. The only other thing you can do on your turn is a free action and can be done at any time during your turn. If you're the first person to complete one of the common tasks, you can move your neutral novice into a high council space and take the action, following the normal rules of only 1 color per high council space. The game will go into its end when there's a number of novices in the high council, as depending on the player count. When that happens, the first player will take the stack of countdown tiles, 5 to 1, and the game continues. Each time the starting player finishes their turn, they will pass the next highest number tile to the next player. At any time, any player can pass and take the points from the tile that they were just given and can be completely out of the rest of the game. If the tile gets all the way back to the start player, it is returned to the box. When all players have passed, or the 1 tile is returned to the box, the game is over. You then go to final scoring. You'll score points for each bonfire. Each guardian standing next to a bonfire will score points based on the position. You score 2 points for each portal next to a bonfire. 2 points if your path color matches the bonfire next to it. 4 points for each common task you have completed, and there is a bonus if you complete the 7 tasks one. And it doesn't matter if you place the neutral meeple or not. 3 points for each fate tile you have not placed, and finally 1 point for every 2 action tiles or resources you have left over. And the player with the most points is the winner. Let's get back to see what I thought about Bonfire. So, theme and components. I even reread the theme again preparing this review, and I still don't get it. If you're looking for a deeply thematic Eurogame, this is not one for you. The theme is interesting, but the game itself feels so removed from that theme, it just didn't work for me. Phil did try to put some thematic elements, I guess, into the game, like sailing your boat, but I think I may be just reaching there. So the theme for me didn't work. Now the components of the game are good. I really like the different shape and colored resources. And it's nice not always having, the same cubes or the same standard brick, gold, and cloth in the game. These were all, very different shapes. Even the wooden meeples themselves, they're different. So I like that. The cardboard pieces are decent as well, and I really like that the portals actually were different shaped to fit into your cardboard board. The board itself is a bit dark, but I think that it represents the water and the land areas very nicely. Now, one of the few things I do have against the components is the iconography. It's definitely not intuitive. But luckily all the cards, tasks, common tasks, and the high council areas are all detailed in the back of the book. Because I found even after a few plays, I was referring back to make sure I was reading the iconography properly. So that is my one ding against the components. But let's go on to the gameplay. Stefan Feld games have often been called point salads because you get points for everything during the game. You drop a brick off, get some points. Go to a city, get some points. Collect 3 roses, get some points. This game really doesn't have that during the gameplay itself. The only points you are going to be getting is from the elders and some of the high council spots. And even at the end of the game, you can get points several ways, but without bonfires, that is the completed tasks, you're not going to be getting any points. And I like how the game kind of focuses you to say you need to complete tasks. And without completed tasks, you're not going to get bonfires, and you're not going to get points. You're not going to get points from your guardians. You can't get points for your paths, etc. It all comes down to completing those bonfire tasks, and those tasks are very varied. But there's kind of no way you can ignore the other ways to score points. Then that's what I love about this game. You need to be doing it all, like any good Euro, completing tasks, getting and moving guardians, getting path tiles, and getting portals. All that needs to be done to score the maximum number of points. But you can't do it all. You need to be making decisions on where you want to put your effort and your energy. Because of this, the game is definitely one of Feld's heavier games. And when you first play the game, it may not click for you at first. And the game definitely benefits from multiple plays. Now, I can explain how the game works, but learning how to make it work to your advantage may not be that easy. How do you get more resources? Well, you need to move your guardians along the path. So, you need to build your path, you need to get guardians, and you need to move them to get more resources. But each step of that matters. Which path tiles are you going to take? You want them to match your bonfire colors, right? How far do you move your guardians? Moving them further to try and get them onto completed bonfire so they're going to be worth points at the end of the game is a great strategy. Or do you take it slowly and stop on each path tile to collect the resources that are on it? I love these type of decisions. Now, one aspect I didn't even mention in the overview is the ability to exchange any 2 resources in place of 1 needed resource, and the same for action tiles. You can spend any 2 action tiles to do the action you want. Because often later in the game, you might have an abundance of one type of tile that you no longer need. Like once you filled out all your path tiles, you don't need any more green tiles, but they're not wasted, as you can always use 2 of them for any action. This does mean that you're hardly ever stuck. You can almost do what you want to do or find a way to do it. Yes, it might be expensive, but if it helps you in the long run, it's definitely worth it. And the gnome cards, for example, are something else that shouldn't be overlooked. They can be very helpful early on in your strategy and are extremely useful. Some of them allow you to place portals wherever and you don't have to go in order from right to left. Or you could get more shipping, like more movement faster. And maybe some of them are going to give you resources, extra resources when your guardian ends up on a path, or make you buy further gnomes cheaper. Another aspect of the game that shouldn't be overlooked is the player interaction. I mean, it's a Euro. You're not attacking your players by any means. But you need to be watching what they're doing and maybe try and second guess their actions. If you see a portal that is 2 or 3 stops away in the Great Bonfire, do you go for it and pay those extra resources? Or maybe someone will move it once for you. But if you see someone else needs the same portal, well, you better jump to get it soon. And looking at the tasks is the same thing. You may think you can get one of those tasks, and if you do, you better grab it or else someone else might, especially if it's an easy task or something you almost can't complete it. Or if you see a gnome that's going to fit perfectly into your strategy, grab it quick. I always felt I needed to be watching what everyone was doing so no one messed up with my plans. Now, my plans always ended up getting messed up anyway, so being able to change directions during the game is a must as well. There's definitely a flow to this game which I enjoyed, and that I needed to be reevaluating what I wanted to do each turn as things may have changed or someone may have taken the tile or resources I really needed. Now, I know I've been gushing on about this game, and for me, there's really only a few negatives to this. Now, probably my biggest issue is the randomness of the game. This is not by far a deal breaker. But the distribution on the portals on the bonfire can hamper your progress. If you get portals that are close together in the correct order, because you're always turning the bonfire in one way, that's fantastic. But if in the opposite to the way the bonfire is going, then it can lead to much more work, really just through the randomness of the draw. And the distributions of tasks on the island, because it is randomized, might be lopsided to certain strengths or maybe certain strategies. And one issue that did come up, and again, it's a minor negative for some players, is how many steps were needed to get something done. They felt that it was maybe 1 step too many. You want to move a guardian to score points? Okay, well, you need a task. You need to complete the task. You need to get a path to the bonfire. You need to get the right portal, and you need to move your guardian to the bonfire spot. Now, I enjoyed that, but not everyone I played with did. So, you know what, I figured I'd just mention that. Another minor issue I had was the balance of the gnomes. Some of them definitely felt more powerful than others. The gnome that allows you to place portals in any order, I don't know, every time I've played it feels like it's overpowered versus most of the other gnomes. I can move 1 extra spot with my ship, or certain colored guardians will collect double the resources when they land, but those don't feel the same as being able to place the portals in any spot. Now, all these gnome cards do have limited time. You only need so many portals, but early on in the game, it just felt like it was a little extra boost. None of the gnomes I ever bought felt like a complete waste, but if I saw that portal one, I almost always went for it. Now, the last minor issue I had was the downtime. It's almost unavoidable in a game like this, when each thing you want to achieve is probably going to take a few actions in a row that people need to start thinking at the start of their turn of what they want to do. They kind of look at the board state and figure out from there. Again, not a major issue, but I did find sometimes I was waiting for people, and I'm not going to blame the game or the people, it's just inherent in the game. So would I recommend this? Wholeheartedly I would. I loved the little mini game that I didn't even talk about placing your tile in the fate area. You know, I love the timing to get all the gears into place to score the maximum number of points at the end of the game. I love looking at the board at the beginning of the game and trying to decide what path I wanted to take. Yes, everyone has to fulfill tasks, but do I go after tasks for having maybe certain colored guardians, or maybe having resources or other tasks? Can I get synergy between the tasks on the board, and can I get them before anyone else does? This type of puzzle in the game I really enjoy. I wasn't a big fan of the randomness in certain areas of the game board or the fate tiles. Some things just didn't work out in my favor, but that might be more of me trying to force a strategy that my setup didn't warrant. The downtime occasionally was an issue, but I never saw that as a major one. And really, all the issues I had with the game were such a minor thing considering how much fun I had playing this game, they were easily overlooked for me. So overall, I'm going to give this game a 9 out of 10 and the Dice Tower seal of excellence. This is a game that every time I finished it, I was thinking how I could have done better, or how I could approach the game differently. And after every play, I could not wait to get it to the table again. And I'm really not sure I can ask for anything more from a game. And that's it for the moment. Until next time, thanks for watching.